Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing an Ultra League team that I had very positive results with, built around my two new Ultra League Pokemon, Licky and Shadow Toucannon. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have a good IV Ultra League Shadow Toucannon during the November Calm Day. I actually got one the day after that Calm Day ended. Thankfully, I could TM away frustration during the Go Battle Week event, and with the December Calm Day, I was finally able to evolve it to get Beak Blast. And once I used it, oh my goodness, Shadow Toucannon is an absolute terror in the Ultra League format. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a dream start in game number 1 as Shadow Toucannon is core breaking a Gastrodon plus Drifblim core to smithereens. I get to bank insane energy on the Toucannon and then send in Licky, and Licky is going to just absolutely feast on this Drifblim. Drifblim can fire off Icy Wind after Icy Wind, but it just simply does not matter. Licky absorbs those hits like it's nothing, farming up just shy of 100 energy and looking to land the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is double debuffed, but still does some pretty serious damage. And once my opponent throws the Icy Wind, I'm looking to get aggressive. I'm going to pivot back into Toucannon, almost able to get the snipe down, and in the back, my opponent has their own Shadow Toucannon. At this point, this game is over. I'm just way too far ahead on energy. I'm not even going to need Beak Blast. I can just fire off Drill Peck after Drill Peck after Drill Peck. That ends up being a charge attack priority time. My Toucannon is going to be winning that, and I'm only one peck away from another Drill Peck. I decide to overfarm ever so slightly. This will easily be knocking out my opponent's Toucannon, and they're going to be bringing back in the Gastrodon. Gastrodon farms up. There's a catch attempt, but they are unsuccessful. And let's see this Shadow Beak Blast damage. Keep in mind, Gastrodon is monstrously bulky. They get absolutely rocked. Toucannon gets the full sweep, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Shadow Toucannon into Galarian Weezing. Now, this is a pretty solid matchup for the Toucannon. Toucannon's move Beak Blast not only does it do massive damage, but you saw against the Gastrodon, there is a guaranteed attack drop for the opponent. So, in matchups like these, since Toucannon isn't the bulkiest, it's oftentimes worth going for a Beak Blast, because once the Beak Blast debuff has been applied, suddenly your Toucannon can actually tank hits. Now, I'm able to survive that sludge very comfortably. I can look to overfarm and take the knockout with Drill Peck. My opponent has to decide, are they really willing to burn all their shields? They say no, and Toucannon wins the lead. So down goes Galarian Weezing. My opponent is going to send in Greninja, hoping for the Water Shuriken down, but Shadow Toucannon hangs on. One final Drill Peck, and that's going to force the final shield. But Greninja is going to do absolutely nothing into Virizion. In the back is a shiny Galarian Moltres. What a flex, but unfortunately, it's about to get completely shut down by Licky. Licky just going to be spamming out these legacy body slams. It's never going to do a lot of damage, but as long as I save the shield for Virizion, there is no way for my opponent to win this game. So I fire off body slam after body slam. All chip damage will be helpful, and Licky will basically just be used as a damage sponge. They'll fire off a last-second charge attack here. It is going to be the payback. Payback lands, taking the knockout, but in comes Virizion. Virizion can even knock out with a resisted Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is going to KO the Galarian Moltres. All that's left in the bank is Greninja, and my opponent will resign the match. Terrible lead in the next match. Shadow Toucannon into Stunfisk. I throw one peck safe switch into Licky. My opponent is going to respond with a Shadow Primate. This is off to a pretty bad start. Countered on the lead and countered on the swap. Licky lands a body slam, doing some pretty okay damage, and now I'm just going to call it. Do they have close combat? No, they do not. They go for the Ice Punch. I know Body Slam won't kill, so I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball into the Shadow Primate, gets no shielded, and just like that, we're able to flip switch advantage. That is incredible. Licky putting the team on his back in game number 3, and probably just winning the game for us outright, because now the Stunfisk is going to be aligned into Virizion, and it's not going to be able to do a whole lot there. Licky very low, unable to make the Shadow Ball, but any chip damage will be helpful. I have a Shadow Toucannon that is up a peck's worth of energy, and they're completely walled by Virizion. In comes Virizion, and my opponent will immediately resign the match. Upping to the next match, picking up a pretty neutral lead, Shadow Toucannon into Umbreon. Obviously, Umbreon is incredibly bulky in the Ultra League, so I'm going straight for the Beak Blast. I want to lock in some big damage. Beak Blast lands, devastating damage. They safe switch into a Shadow Talonflame, and I have a perfect response available with Licky. So far, so good. My opponent gave up switch advantage, which is incredibly good for me because Licky is going to absolutely feast. Body Slam would not take the knockout, so I full send the Shadow Ball, but my opponent reads my play and they will put up the shield. I really want switch advantage because then I can put the Umbreon onto my Virizion, and the Umbreon's not going to be able to do a lot there. Unfortunately, the rollouts would not have taken the knockout, so I will fire off the Body Slam and take the KO. In the back is a Nidoqueen. Mud Slaps are adding up quite a bit on Licky Licky. I will fire off Body Slam. Body Slam is not going to do a whole lot, and I'm getting to Body Slam number 2. Again, any chip damage will be helpful in this matchup, and now I send in Toucannon. If my opponent has Stone Edge, I could be in some serious trouble. Drill Peck is going to be shielded, and now I have a very tough call to make. I decide to call it. If they Stone Edge me, so be it, but they Poison Fang. That actually works out pretty nicely. However, now my opponent could combo with the Umbreon. I'm going to predict the combo. In comes Virizion. They don't go for it. I need this Leaf Blade to knock out. If it doesn't, they could get a Poison Fang and maybe have a chance at this game, but it does take the knockout. Back in comes the Umbreon. Virizion is still too healthy, and they will concede the match. Great lead in the next match. Shadow Toucannon into Shadow Dusknoir. The moment my opponent safe switches into Galarian Moltres, I am very, very happy. Toucannon can outpace, apply an immediate attack debuff, and get a shield with Beak Blast, and then bank some energy and send in Licky Licky. And Licky Licky is more than happy to absorb debuffed Galarian Moltres energy. Moltres goes for the payback, and Licky Licky just does not really care. Licky Licky tries to go for the Body Slam, but my opponent is going to throw on good charge attack timing. Fly is going to connect. I go for the Body Slam. They make a very nice catch onto Empoleon. So they are able to preserve that Galarian Moltres. Body Slam is not going to do much. I fire off the Shadow Ball just to burn the switch timer, and then I'm going to look to send in Virizion. Virizion will take double super effective damage from Drill Peck. However, I know that it will not one-shot, so I am going to no shield. Drill Peck lands, that's devastating damage, and I will go for an undercharge on a Leaf Blade. I'm hoping to leave them at 1 HP, but as it turns out, Leaf Blade will still take the KO. In comes Shadow Dusknoir, looking for a farm down. I'm able to hang on and make a last-second Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is going to be no-shielded because they know the Shadow Toucannon will do way more damage. In comes the Toucannon, firing off this Drill Peck. Drill Peck into the Dusknoir is going to be no-shielded. They're hoping they can farm down with the Galarian Moltres. In comes the Moltres, but they do not get there. Shadow Toucannon hangs on, makes the Drill Peck, getting that final shield, and then Licky Licky will close out this game. Licky Licky makes the Body Slam. Rollouts have been adding up as well, and we're going to get a 2-shield flex with a Shadow Toucannon team to secure the win. Hopping into the next match, picking up a tricky lead, Shadow Toucannon into Regidrago. Now, Reggie actually wins the 0s and the 1s here. Toucannon only wins the 2s. And realistically, I don't like burning all my shields in one matchup unless I absolutely have to. So it'd be a lot better for me if I could catch out of it. Regidrago should always go for the Vice Grip, as that's what allows him to keep pace with the Drill Peck. So I'm going to farm up to the Drill Peck, switch into Licky Licky, and catch the Vice Grip. This works out pretty nicely for me, as it forces my opponent to use energy inefficiently. They're going to stay in with the Regidrago, and they're looking to farm. They bank Dragon Energy, send out Steelix. And Steelix, unfortunately, I don't have Earthquake here, but Shadow Ball will do a little bit of chip damage. I'm going to continue to farm up with the Licky Licky, as I believe they are going to reach 100 energy before I do. They fire off a charge attack. I'm no shielding. Earthquake lands. I barely hang on, and in comes Virizion. Virizion, I need a lot of residual energy because I know my opponent's going to be sending back in the Regidrago. Psychic Fangs is going to land. There's the combo with the Regidrago. I think I should barely hang on to a Dragon Energy. I no shield, and my opponent baited with a Vice Grip. This works pretty nicely in my favor. I'm going to fire off the Sacred Swords back to back. I considered over-farming, but I didn't want to take the extra fast move pressure when I was already debuffed. So I'm just going to knock out the Regidrago. My opponents are probably not going to be bringing back in that Steelix. They're going to reveal that their final Pokemon is Lapras. I fire off the Sacred Sword just to cover for a potential catch onto the Steelix. Sacred Sword is going to be shielded, and there's a switch into Toucannon. My opponent switches into the Steelix, and I fire off the Beak Blast. Not only will this do big damage, but it's going to debuff my opponent as well. They can't farm down. I could have made the Drill Peck, so they throw energy. They go for an undercharged Psychic Fangs, and that's going to set up farm for the Steelix. However, I can bring in Virizion, double kick down, and exit with the Leaf Blade loaded. However, Leaf Blade is not nearly going to be enough onto the Lapras. I'm going to need multiple charge attacks from the Licky Licky. It all comes down to this. Can I survive one Psywave? I have the back-to-back Shadow Balls, and Licky Licky hangs on. 0, 11, 12 IVs. We have the bulk. Down goes Lapras, and that was a very crazy win. Bad lead in the next match, Shadow Toucannon into Empoleon. I'm going to farm up to 6, switch into the Licky, and get the catch. I anticipated that switching on 5 would be too obvious, but they have to throw before I get the Beak Blast, so them throwing on 6 just made quite a bit of sense. I'm just going to keep farming with the Licky for now. My opponent will go for another Hydro Cannon, and that works out very nicely for me. At some point, I'm going to have to throw energy, so I will fire off Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands, solid damage onto the Empoleon, but not damage enough. They're going to be able to take the knockout, and I'm just going to go for a full farm down with the Toucannon. I think this is going to put me over 100 energy, but I just want to exit with as close to back-to-back Beak Blasts as I can get. My opponent is going to pivot into an Alolan Ninetales, and I am very weak to Ice once Licky is gone. Beak Blast is going to get the shield. Now they're debuffed, and I'm going for Beak Blast number 2. Are they really willing to double shield the Ninetales? They are not. Look at the damage. Shadow Toucannon, just an absolute criminal, and I'm going to be shielding. I want this Ninetales gone. The good news is I have a Drill Peck loaded. What are they going to send in? They send in a Kyurem, and I should have thrown that Drill Peck. I assumed they were bringing in the Empoleon, so I wanted to switch out. But the moment I saw Kyurem, I should have clicked that Drill Peck. And that's because switching from the Toucannon to the Virizion, a Dragon Breath landed on the Toucannon. And if that puts me in 1 Dragon Breath range, then I'm not actually going to get my charge attack. My opponent makes a very nice catch onto Empoleon. I go for a 0 bubble and get a bit of an energy head start. Back in comes the Kyurem. I know if I get the Drill Peck, I win this game. Am I in 1 Dragon Breath range? In comes Toucannon, and I am in 1 Dragon Breath range, and unfortunately, it's a heartbreaking defeat. The tough leads continue in the next match, leading Shadow Toucannon into Shadow Walrein. Shadow Walrein is an incredibly scary Pokemon. They stay on the field, so I'm going to fire off the Shadow Ball and land some very critical damage. Walrein is going to return fire here. I'm more than happy to absorb an Icicle Spear, because this is the only Pokemon on my team that really wants to take ice damage. My opponent now sends out Hydreigon. Oh my goodness, look at the spice. They do not fear the fighters. Hydreigon this season did get access to Fly, and that could be quite scary. Because obviously Fly, I imagine, is going to be one-shotting my Virizion. I'm able to barely survive that Brutal Swing and make a last-second Body Slam. Body Slam is going to land, and in comes Shadow Toucannon. Shadow Toucannon, maybe I can survive a Brutal Swing, but I know Hydreigon has a huge attack stat, so I will put up the shield and get that farm down and exit with a ton of energy. Back in comes the Walrein, and Walrein is going to be CMP tying the Toucannon. And of course, the Toucannon is going to be winning that CMP tie by an absolute mile. I need more damage on the Walrein, so I'm putting up my final Protect Shield. I'm going to farm up to the Drill Peck, and I get it. My opponent looking to overfarm. They did not want to CMP tie again. Drill Peck is going to be shielded. My opponent farming up. They're going to bank energy. In comes Dusknoir. And this game could very well come down to the CMP tie between Virizion and Walrein. And that is a very IV-dependent CMP tie. I have a very bad Virizion, so it might be a little bit in my favor, but it's going to be very, very close. I farm up to the back-to-back Leaf Blades. Leaf Blade will be knocking out the Dusknoir, and it all comes down to this. I win charge attack priority over the Walrein and win the game. In the defaults, it's very, very close, but luckily having a bad IV Virizion clinched it for me. We move to the next match, and unfortunately, we have basically the worst case scenario staring us down in Shadow Typhlosion. Shadow Typhlosion is such a problem for this team because it just fully farms down Toucannon in the 2s, and obviously will absolutely shred the Virizion in the back. My game plan was, if they threw when they doubled up on Thunder Punches, to catch onto the Licky, but my opponent, they must have seen it coming because they end up just waiting the turn, and the catch does not happen, and now I'm in trouble because I just got incinerated down. In comes Licky. My opponent actually waited a turn to see what got brought in, so that's why a third rollout sneaks there. Blast Burn absolutely rocks the Licky, and in comes Regidrago. Unfortunately, I don't have an amazing response to Regidrago on this team because I don't have a Dragon Resist. So I'm just going to be firing off energy with the Licky, doing what I can, but this looks like a very uphill battle. I'm going to have enough trouble getting through the Regidrago and the Typhlosion, and I still haven't even seen their final Pokemon. Ice Grip will take the knockout. In comes Virizion. And man, this is going to be very, very tough. I think my only way back in the game is maybe to try and call a bait, but they go for Dragon Energy. I farm up, and unfortunately, I had miscounted. They get the Vice Grip. That's going to cost me a shield. They pivot into Typhlosion. I could have double kicked down, but the issue is if I don't throw, then the Incinerate damage registers, and I'm just too low. In the back is Shadow Walrein. Wait, maybe there's a chance. I know my Virizion will typically win the CMP tie here. I will get to another Leaf Blade, but the Powder Snows just did too much damage. I am still alive, but not enough. Regidrago, Dragon Breath down, and we will unfortunately drop that game. We've got a great lead in the final match. Shadow Toucannon into Shadow Dusknoir. Opponent save switches into a shiny Galarian Moltres. This team looks very familiar. We did see a team that had these first two Pokemon and had an Empoleon in the back last time. So far, I'm going to play it the same way. Get the shield and the debuff with Beak Blast, bank energy on the Toucannon, and then send in Licky to be a damage sponge. Fly, that's not going to do a whole lot. My opponent ends up throwing on alignment, maybe worried about me trying to throw a charge attack there, but I'm more than happy just to take the free rollout. I farm up to 100, my opponent makes a devastating catch of a Body Slam back onto the Shadow Dusknoir. But I have a Body Slam plus a Shadow Ball, so now I just get to fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to land, and I'm more than happy just to stay on the field and force my opponent to throw Dynamic Punch. Because once they've thrown all that energy, that just looks like free farm for Shadow Toucannon. Shadow Toucannon gets a 2-peck head start, basically lost no HP to do so, and now what does my opponent want to do? They're going to send out Unova Stunfisk, and I just win this game with Virizion. In comes the Moltres. Moltres, they just don't have enough energy. Fly gets shielded. Virizion can't get to the charge move because before I can, they will resign the match. All in all, for this being my first time playing Ultra League in this new season of Go Battle League, oh my goodness, I had an absolute blast. No pun intended. I know the move is Beak Blast, but no pun intended there. But man, Shadow Toucannon feels like a really legit Ultra League Pokemon. Obviously, it's on the glassier side of things, but the fact that you can throw Beak Blast in matchups to artificially inflate your bulk by debuffing the opponent's attack, I think gives it an incredible amount of merit. Add to that the fact that most of the time, if you're throwing a move that debuffs your opponent's attack, it's a move like Icy Wind or Chilling Water that doesn't do a lot of damage neutrally, not an incredible nuke move that can almost one-shot things in a very, very bulky Ultra League meta. So I think Shadow Toucannon, it does require a bit of finesse, but I think it's an absolute terror of a Pokemon. I think justifiably so. People are going to be seeing a lot of Shadow Toucannon this season, and that's for a very good reason. I don't want to end the video without shouting out Licky though, because I think Licky is back. I think it was quite a few seasons back that Licky was very strong in the Open Ultra League. It was save switched quite a bit. I do think that you could potentially consider a double nuke moveset as well, maybe with Earthquake Shadow Ball, if you're really trying to punish steel counter swaps. But all in all, I think Licky is just amazing. Licky really felt like a strong Pokemon that I could use to kind of reposition things in the mid-game. The fact that he was able to win the zeros against a Shadow Primate that didn't have close combat was very, very funny. And also just game-winning, because then the Stunfisk couldn't do anything against Virizion. So this team felt like a lot of fun. Even if you don't necessarily run this exact team, I think if you put Licky somewhere on your team, or you put Shadow Toucannon somewhere on your Ultra League team, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.